And we are live. Now it's going to take a second for them to catch up on the other side
Mm-hmm.
because we have like a little bit of a time lapse
Right.
or lag, however you want to say it. But I do see quite a few people in here already. I see Johnny. Hi, Johnny. Oh, and let me mute myself over here. I see Glennis, the Witch of Whitetail Hollow. Hi, honey. I see
Nice.
Summer, Astaria's Sun. I see Lori Whale Song 81. Hi, guys.
Some people whose channels I'm familiar with, some I've never heard before. Which is, it's always good, being able to check out new ones.
Yep. Guys, this is Robert. Welcome, Robert. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It's always great, chatting.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to be an interesting one because we were just talking beforehand, and you actually touch into many of the things that we don't normally talk about on here. So it's going to be a little bit of an adventure today.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yep.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I am too. Like, like I said, I'm a bit long-winded. I can't even speak today, I swear. Long-winded and rambling at times. So, I mean, it's kind of a bardic trait. Most people who practice some kind of like bardic path tend to be long-winded, ramble. You give us an inch, we'll take 100 miles.
Sounds like me. So we're just going to wait like a minute, let people roll in a little bit, and then we'll get started on the questions. Sound good?
Mm-hmm. Perfectly fine with me.
Okay. All right, cool. Hi, Bo Sadie. Hi, Emma. Kelly Sunflower is Bo Sadie, and Emma is Walking My Path.
Oh, nice.
Hopefully I don't forget any names because I have my moments, but
I'm not too terrible with names. Sometimes it takes me a couple of times, especially so I can see a little bit still, so I can if I have enough lighting and whatnot, I can, once I've seen a face a couple of times, I can get it. But I go more by voices, and it usually takes me about 2 or 3 times to get attuned to someone's voice and to remember them.
Perfect. Well, also, guys, I want to let you know that Robert said sometimes he has issues being able to see all the comments. So if you do ask him a question and if he doesn't see it, he's not ignoring you guys. He just maybe hasn't seen or it hasn't come across. Okay.
Yeah, because I use a screen reader to do anything on the computer, and I mean, Google and YouTube is way more accessible now than it was when I first got onto YouTube about a decade or so ago, but it still has its ups and downs.
Yeah. All right. So normally the first question is, why your channel name? But that is your name, right?
Well, yeah, it is my name. Well, there is kind of a bit of a story to that. You see, like I stated, I've been on YouTube for about 11 years now, and I have had over 150 channels, over the past decade, and a lot of that is due to problems with technology. I came onto YouTube when there was a lot of drama, there's a lot of infighting. And so a lot of my channels were casualties of, that. And, I've had people like spiritual communities that I used to belong to when I was a teenager who came back to haunt me for like 5 years, went on a hacking spree, hacking all my blogs, all my YouTube channels. So I went by many names, and earlier last year, I was going by what is basically my spiritual name, which is Sula Bridge, which is Irish for Bridget's eyes. But which is not a name that I picked, but it was, a name that, Bridge has, basically put on me for certain rituals that I do for people, get heavily involved in like a lot of spirit working, trance working, so on and so forth. But, it kind of got to the point where a lot of people couldn't find me across the web, or they couldn't spell it because, not everyone, knows Irish. I mean, granted, I'm just an amateur at it, but I'm pretty good at like reading languages, learning how to, write them, spell them, read them a little bit better than I can speak them. So I'm like, look, I've gone through the past 11 years with tons of names. I just need to find, I just need to like get back to bare bones, just, stripped everything back down to the bare bones, make it easier for myself, because I am slowly in the process of, like, for lack of a better term, putting together a professional spiritual business, like I guess you can say, or service is probably the better term. And I'm like, it would just be easier if people, would find me under my own name than, like a nickname or brand name. And so I just decided to go under my own name, just use it. And it's it hasn't been as smooth sailing as I originally thought it would be, but it's slowly getting there. It's
Hey, it
working. It's
makes
taking
sense
its time.
though.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So the next question normally is, how long have you been on? So you've been on like 11 years, but in various different channels?
Yeah, I've had over 150 channels in the past 11 years. Most of
Okay.
them were ones that I made and I was hoping to do something with, and they would only last for about a month or two. Some channels I've had that I kind of became well known for, like some of my more well known ones for those people who are watching in the witchy, pagan, polytheist communities like a decade ago. Some of my more well known channels were like Guardian of the Grove, Well of Imos, Traveler of the Mists was another one. The Blind Heathen, though that was more like back in 2012, 2013. Storming Wolf, Blind Storming Wolf, some of those names were, ones that was like more well known by. And it's been an interesting ride. Like I keep there have been times I've been frustrated with YouTube where I've, kind of wanted to walk away, but I definitely love talking with people, and it's the people that I've met along the way, especially the people that I've met years ago that I still keep in touch with, that, keep me from walking away fully from it. And while in some ways I'm more active a little bit in the podcasting community, or I'm in the process of setting that up, YouTube is where I got started. So in a way, it's home. It feels more like home than any other place that I've been online. So
Summer has started to send us cool YouTube names though, but I haven't been on YouTube that long, and that's the same for me also.
yeah,
But yeah, some really cool names you had there.
yeah. Well, so. Well, I mean, when I first got on YouTube, I went under the name Amergan or Amergin of Canaan, which is an Irish name. It was a reference to like the famous Fili, or poet, the first like major poet that a lot of lore that we get a lot of our bardic lore that for different like rituals and things that we actually still know that we can reconstruct. So, I started out that, and then at that point I was just doing like, vlog videos, which I still occasionally do. Like my channel, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit of that in a bit, but my channel isn't just like spiritually focused. It never has been. And like yeah. So yeah, the name's
Well,
just
that's kind of the next question anyways, was what was the direction or what did you envision for your channel?
Well, my vision, my direction has kind of always been the same. It's, a place for me to chat, to share bits and pieces of myself, and to share a different perspective, because I don't know, I like in a lot of ways I find myself in a very weird place when it comes to spiritual communities, because I'm a little bit more I don't know if you've ever heard the term recon or not, reconstructionist, or not, when it comes to polytheism, paganism. I'm a little bit more recon focused, or traditionally focused, than, a lot of people. But at the same time, I'm a little bit more spirit taught, deity taught than a lot of the heavier recons that you'll come across. When I'm not talking about spiritual stuff, I talk about like blindness, blindness related topics. I've been starting to get into things about gender and sexuality a little bit. I do a lot of role playing with Dungeons and Dragons. So pretty much my channel runs the gamut. Like I know there's a lot of people on YouTube who for themselves, they decide my channel is a very select niche of, and they compartmentalize what they do. And I've tried that in the past and it just not work for me. What you see is what you get. And sometimes that works for me, sometimes that works against me. But all in all, like the direction, my vision is just one stop place to see all the facets of myself, to share all the facets and aspects of myself, everything from, down and dirty, just hang out, you say, hey, how's it going? This is what's going on my day, to, sharing things I'm doing spiritually, to, I know eventually I want to get around to start providing divination services through my channel. So it's basically just everything under the sun as far as I'm interested in, or that, I'm focused on, just gets put in there somewhere.
Perfect. So you never know what you're going to get. It could be something completely new the next day,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
That's awesome.
Well, it's like, I haven't, I'm not quite ready to do it because I'm still in the middle of reading it, but I have a few books that I'm in the middle of reading that once I get done, I'm definitely going to do some book reviews, post some book reviews up on my channel. So that's definitely something I do want to get into as far as 2020. One of my goals for 2020 in my channel.
Awesome. Cool. So how would you label your spiritual path? And I know this is going to be a long one, so I'm going to minus my.
Okay. So the basic term I use is heathen. And I know when most people think of heathen, they think of, Norse heathenry. And yeah, I do practice Norse heathenry. I'm actually dual traditional. I practice both Irish and Norse heathenry. And the terms I use is, and I'm still very much an amateur at pronouncing names. I've only in this past year recently found a accessible program that pronounces things as they should be in modern Irish. But it's a Gentleoch. And as far as heathenry goes, I practice a form of heathenry called Rurkartru, which is a form of heathenry, but a focus more on the Yurtnar, the giants, so like Loki, Hel, their family. As far as the Irish side of my practice goes, I'm a devotee of Bríd or Bridget, and her family. So I worship and I work a lot with like Ondagda, the Morrigan, Ingus MacOg, so on and so forth. So as far as like, religious perspective or aspect of things, that's in a nutshell, that's what it is. But as far as like, magic, what have you, on the Irish side of things, I practice Filiach, or the tradition of the Fili, the poet, which are they're basically seer poets. There's a lot of trance work, prophecy, your traditional magic. I've heard a lot of people like compare them and the Bardic Path in general, which that the Bardic Path is a part of Filiach in a lot of ways. Well, depending on if you're coming from a more traditional side of things as opposed to say like a neo-druidic, which there's nothing wrong with a neo-druidic perspective. I also technically practice neo-druidry as well, because I'm a part of a few different neo-druid organizations such as Andreach Féin /80th, as well as the Order of Bards, Ovates, and Druids. But as far as like my Irish practice goes, that's not the core of my spirituality or my practice. It's kind of outlier, I guess you could say. Like it's still important, but like I said, I'm kind of like in that weird space where I'm a little bit more recon than a lot of people, but I'm not recon enough to really fall in with the reconstructions, trying to, look at what we know, what we can gather from the lore, from archaeology, from all these different sources to piece together. It's one methodology that I use to build my practice, but I'm just as much as, taught by deity, taught by spirits. I also practice a little bit, and I don't know how to pronounce it in Irish yet, but the fairy faith. And by fairy faith, I mean, working with, honoring, worshiping the Ishi, the fae folk, the fairy folk. and working with them. I have to say the closest thing that I get to like really witchcraft is working with them from an Irish perspective. On the north side of things, I'm really getting into things like Seder, which deals in Spee. Spee is more like prophecy, seership, divination. There's a good bit of that in Seder too. There's a bit of we don't exactly know what the terms mean, but we have like different major theories that people go with. Like one is that Seder is about shaking, boiling, movement of. I've seen a couple of academic theories postulate that it has something to do with witchcraft or equivalent. And of course I also practice Galder, which is deals with a lot with runic magic, dealing with the runes, and not just from a divination perspective, but also like incorporating that into my magic, chanting, creating spells and charms and curses using runes, singing the runes, screaming the runes, whispering the runes, and I basically incorporate it all into every aspect of my practice, more or less.
That sounds really cool. And wow. Okay. Just wow. That's a lot of stuff. Holy cow. Yep. Wow. I don't even know where to start really, because you just went through so much stuff that I don't even know about,
Sorry.
I'm just like, well, no.
I have a tendency of doing that. Like, yeah.
Sorry.
Well, the thing is that like, I don't know how much you know, or if you work with astrology any, but I'm very much a Virgo sun, Pisces moon, and I'm also like my Mars is Virgo, and one of the aspects of having Virgo and Mars is you're the kind of person that you have a problem, you use information, you use knowledge. I'm that kind of person. You ask something, and 9 times out of 10, what, you wanted an elevator pitch? Here, have a novel.
Hey, I love information. Okay, definitely. I'm a Virgo moon, so yes, I know.
Nice.
I will say that as soon as you said or talked about the fairies, my ears perked up, and I know that Summer's did, because Summer is like all about the fairies and the fae and the she. Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, when it comes to the like, I have a few different companions. I guess you could say some people would call them guides, familiars, what have you. I prefer, because I also, another aspect of my practice very much what is commonly referred to as spirit work. I'm very like in my in all the facets of my practice, I'm very much a relationship oriented person. So it's like I have these beings that I work with, we interact, and I get, and it's not just, hey, I'll do this for you, you do this for me via offerings, but it's also, let's hang out, let's chat through divination, through what have you. And but like when it comes to fairy work, working with the fairy faith, my primary companion is one of the fairy cats, the cat she, and his name is Ruidri. And there's a couple of videos I've done in the past that I've since taken down. I'll be re-recording them and re-uploading them here on my channel soon. But he's a pistol. Like his personality, he's very much a snarky, sarcastic, excuse me, kind of guy, but he helps me get a lot of stuff done, like especially when I got some magical stuff that I need to get done, and it's like, hey, things are about to hit the fan here, come on, let's get this done.
Very cool. I did want to mention, I had talked to you before this went live about it being like a couple of months since you had done one, so he explained to me that there were issues with the quality of the video or something like that.
Okay, so there are a couple of different things. So I have a very limited space, as far, because like I live in my family's house. I've been living with my family since my divorce. I moved back to the States, moved back home, and so my room is also the attic room. of the house. So there's only, limited amount of space, and everything, all like my computer table and everything in it is kind of in a corner. So my angle was weird, and I know it's still kind of weird, but my sister-in-law has told me that this is about the best that we can get it. It's like, I know it's still kind of awkward, but as far as compared to what it was, at least people can see me, at least I can do a lot more than what I could, because the camera angle was a little bit higher. So if I wanted to do an unboxing video or a divination video, you cannot see the table. Now you can see the table.
Gotcha.
And also was having issues because I have 2 different microphones, and each microphone does something a little bit better. And there were some videos that I was having a hard time getting the volume properly fixed. I've since figured out that, and I've also had problems like finding what is for me the right quality of video. And I've since worked that out. So everything's consistent, and it's in a way that I'm very, so I have, being mostly blind, I'm very sound oriented. I can still see some, but I'm mostly sound oriented. So I'm very picky, very, I guess you can say, perfectionist when it comes to, I need, like, if I can't hear this properly, I can only imagine my, my viewers, having a hard time hearing me or seeing me.
So you told me that you were going to be uploading, or you're pretty soon. So I just wanted to let everyone know if they were going over there, because I put a link to your channel in the chat. So as people go over there, you do have more content that's coming.
Well, so. I have a few videos that I just uploaded, like I told you before we went live. I have a channel update video that I'll be posting later today that basically says what I just said, more or less. And a couple of ideas that I want to experiment. That's another thing. I'm always experimenting with how to make it better. And that's something that you will find with a lot of visually impaired and blind YouTubers. We're constantly experimenting, because we can have the best tech in the world. We can have the, the best help, but it is constantly like when we can't see, even be it my situation where I can see somewhat, but where I can't see dead center of my field of vision, I have to use my peripheral vision. Everything's awkward. I have friends, like one of my best friends, they're completely blind, and even with their wife and their brother, who are completely sighted, who helped them out, it is a constant battle to improve, improve the quality, improve how the video looks. So I'm constantly experimenting, trying out new things. But then tomorrow I will be uploading an unboxing and review video of a statue of Loki I came in the mail. And then Tuesday of next week, I have a tag video that I did, that I recorded the other day, that is a blind YouTuber tag. And then and a lot of the videos that I took down were tag videos that I did past couple months. And another reason why I took those down is because I was having issues, like having the amount of data being taken up, recording those videos were not consistent. So I tried to film them and upload them as individual, like I answer question for a tag, I upload the answer for that question as individual video. While it was good, while I was doing that, I kind of came to find out that it was an inefficient way for me doing it. And now that I have everything consistent with rendering, with editing, I don't have to worry about what should be a 1.5 gig video ending up turning out to be a 5 gig video when I put it all together.
Ooh.
So,
yeah.
So there's the only 2 tag videos that I will not be redoing are the ones that were specific to 2019. There's one that Annie from Earth and Reverence started. That was the Yule. I did not get to finish it because I got sick in the middle of December. And there was also a lot of other stuff going on that. And then there was a tag video I did. It was the 2020 vision, 2019 vision that Simon from the Oracle's Cave YouTube channel did. And I will not be doing, I will not be redoing or re-uploading but that one. But all the other tag videos that I had up on my channel past couple months, I will eventually be redoing and re-uploading. And I'm constantly looking at tag videos. I love doing tag videos because I think that they're really easy ways to get to know a channel, especially if you are looking at a channel you don't like, you don't know if you're going to like them or not, and you see a title and it's like, well, that's interesting, but I don't know if I have the energy to sit through all that right now. Let's see if I can find a tag video. And the tag video itself might be long, but at least it will have like enough varied questions for you to figure out, okay, I like this guy, I like his energy, I want to check out more of his stuff, or what have you. It's what I do, at least.
So the next question is, do you use divination? And if so, what types do you use?
Yes. Oh, yes. To say I use divination is the understatement of the millennium. I'm a huge diviner. It's a huge cornerstone of my practice. So I classify all the different types of divination that I do as divination with physical tools and divination without physical tools. With physical tools, I am primary. I can't even speak today, I swear. I am primarily a reader of Om, the Irish alphabet. I know there's a lot of misinformation about it and a lot of like assumptions about it in the general community, which I'm actually going to eventually be setting down and doing a basic, like going through the assumptions, how those assumptions came about, what's the truth, what we know, what we think we know, so on and so forth about Om. Like I said earlier, before we got ended up being live, I've been studying, learning, and reading Om since 2009. I also read with runes, Elder Futhark runes specifically. And the other main form of divination that I use with, or the other two main ones that I do, is I do what is called shufflemancy. I don't know if you ever heard that one or not before, but it's where you use a playlist of music and you ask questions, and there's different ways you can do it, but the songs that you get determine what the answers are, or what you get from the divination that you're trying to do. And I also do dice. There are other forms of divination I'm learning, but I haven't quite worked it out yet. One of them is pendulums. And that one's a little tricky for me right now because the whole, it's a little like, it is tactile because you got a chain and you have vibration so you can feel it. But at the same time, depending on how you do it, it can be tricky to feel it. So I'm basically stumbling around, figuring out for myself over time, what are the best ways for me to make it more blind friendly. And another form that one of the goddesses that I work a lot with, I worship a lot, is Hel, or Hela. And she wants me to eventually get into reading animal bones, tossing and reading animal bones. So I have found a place that will sell them. They are ethically sourced. I'm very conscious about where I'm getting things that either, like, with my divination tools, if they're ethically sourced from trees, or if they're animal parts, if they're ethically sourced from, how they were collected, how they were processed, that sort of thing. Divination that doesn't involve physical tools, I do a lot of trance work, if I can even pronounce this word, ecstatic oracular trance, spirit journeying. I do a lot of like traveling in the other world. I guess a lot of people would refer to it as the astral. I don't really use the term astral projection, which has kind of got me in trouble in the past. I've actually lost clients before. They're like, what, you simply because, I don't necessarily always use the same terms that everyone else does. So they're like, so they think, well, then that means you don't know how to do it. And so they go, seeking someone else, which, it's fine. It happens. You can't, one of the things that I've learned in the past trying to help other people is you're not always going to be the right fit for someone. And which all you can do is say, hey, I hope you find the person that you're looking for that will help you with whatever problem that you have or whatever answer you're seeking or what have you. And that's the only thing you can do, really. But I also have a bit of the second sight, which isn't so much a thing that I like actively do. It's something that's with me all the time. And it's something that's been passed down in my family here and there. And it's something that I've had all my life. And it's something that is on pretty much constantly. There's always a bit of it that's as long as I am conscious, I interact with it. So I'm constantly getting little things. If I want to get more than just little things, I have to focus on it. But
So what do you mean by the second sight? Do you mean like clairvoyance?
I guess. I mean, I know the second sight is more of an Irish way of saying it, but it's basically having the ability to get things from a visual perspective, though though you might not physically see it, though it tends to manifest through your sight. So for me, it manifests in my field of physical vision, even though my physical field of vision is very faulty due to my blindness. But at its basic level, I see, the best way I can describe it is vibration, like colors, vibrating patterns of colors, energy waves. And that's the part that's always there. But if I focus on it a little bit more, I'll get other things like for example, not too long ago, my little sister was wanting me to try to do what I like to call taking a second sight snapshot of someone, where I look at a selfie that someone did, and I try to see if I can see any animals that might be connected to them, or any of their ancestors, or if there's any like otherworldly beings such as like angels or fairies or what have you around them.
So can you also see like auras and stuff like that as well? Aura colors?
I see colors. I honestly don't know if they're auras. If they are auras, I don't really go by the system that or the systems that seem to be
terminology.
Oh yeah, well, part of it is I don't really go by the terminology that a lot of people use, but also a large part of it is I find that, at least in my experience, I focus more on the Irish and Norse traditional colors, because like so like for example, for me, something that is otherworldly, spiritual, holy, so on and so forth would be white. Healing might be green. Red could be anything from passion, but it could also be, blood. It could be health. It could be death. Black is usually something, bad's happening, something bad's coming on. It's you got to watch out for. Just to give an example. So it's kind of funny because every once in a while I'll get asked to read people's colors. And then I explain it how I was taught, how I was taught / how I basically taught myself. And a lot of the times it doesn't always match what seems to be these are the meanings of these colors per the general community.
Right.
So it sometimes gets me into trouble, but if nothing else, it always allows for interesting dialogue to come about, which I think is always a great thing.
Have you ever gotten any kind of validation on the colors that you see though?
Yeah. More than not. I'm trying to think of an example because I'm very much a believer in, keeping my examples confidential.
Of course.
But excuse me. I remember doing something for someone. They were having issues with health, with healing. Actually, no. I can give you an example that I can talk about. So I'm part of a spiritual group for all blind people, and we were doing a Imbolc ritual this past weekend, and we were doing a blessing and a purification, a traditional Irish blessing and purification ritual using milk. And one of them's like, okay, I'm seeing the color because they're all blind. Some of them have different innate abilities, some second sight, although I think one of them tends to refer to the term clairvoyant. But they're like, I see white and I see green. And I'm like, should that be there? And I'm like, well, from an Irish perspective, at least, as far as the meanings of the colors, at least from color ohm, yeah, that should be there.
Right.
White for otherworldly, green, for health, for healing, among other things, because it's more than just that. But if I went into all the details, we would be here all day.
Okay. Well, I'm going to stop you right there, but I know I want to see your runes, and I want to see your, what do you call them?
Ohm.
Ohm.
I know that like English speaking, English speakers trying to, without knowing Irish at all, they tend to call them Ogham. But there's a couple different ways to pronounce them Irish wise, and that's like so yeah. Okay, so here's my runes. Here's a couple of my runes I got, and I'm probably gonna pronounce them wrong because I'm still learning them. But here's Perthro, and we got it's kind of hard for me to tell. Hold on, let's see if I can flip this bit. Yeah, we have I think it's pronounced, or I think it's something roughly like Nitha. I have it written down. I'm still learning how to pronounce them properly because, like I said, I found programs here in this past year that pretty much teach me how to pronounce them. Can these be seen okay? Do I need to move them a bit?
No, we can see him just fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry,
right.
I was just minusing myself out so people could see.
No, that's okay. Sorry.
Yeah. Not a problem.
So there's a couple of my runes, and like I said earlier, these are both made out of birch wood. They were carved by the same person. Really nice guy. He has an Etsy shop called Nothos, Nothos, I believe it's how it's said. And the one I'm holding in my hand is Moon, pronounced roughly Moon or something like that. And it, I know as far as like a lot of people in the witchy spiritual community, they tend to look at it as like the vine. They'll honestly ascribing trees / plants / herbs to all the Ohm characters. That was something that was done a little bit later. There's, I think, if I remember correctly, there's about 7 or 8 characters or feta that are like, that's what their actual names are. They're tree names, but not all of the characters, their names specifically mean trees. And the one we got here, my left hand, is Dare, which is one of the ones that definitely means a tree. It means oak. Specifically translates into English from Irish as oak. So we have this one in my right hand, which is I think it's like roughly moon or something like that. It has several different meanings. It can mean things like the top, the neck, the back. It can also mean things. It also translates into English as love, trick, and the voice.
Those are really cool.
Mm-hmm. Just making sure that everyone can see these just fine.
We can see them.
All right, cool. Because even though I know that this setup is a lot better than the setup I was using for the past 6 or 7 months, I'm still getting used to it. So there are times it's like, I don't know, am I just holding these up and just looking silly, or can people actually see these? It's and I will do. I did have a video where I showed these off. I will at some point in the near future do videos where I show them off and talk about where I got them, the process that went into them. Because I know that the guy who carved these for me, he has a whole ritual that he goes through that's month long, as far as like carving them and then making the leather pouches / bags that they come in.
Wow, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Can you pick up that bag so that we can see it on camera?
Which bag, or do you want me to do both of them?
Both of them.
All right, I'll do the Ohm bag first. It's a bit smaller.
That's just beautiful.
Yep. I believe the leather is cow, but I'm not entirely sure. It might be deer because I know he uses both. But it's got little bells on it. Honestly, I like this pouch a lot better than the one with the runes. It's not that the ones with the runes is bad or anything, but here, I'll show you. So here's the one with the runes, the Elder Futhark runes, and it's got like this really rough bottom. It's like this really firm. You can't feel it down here, but like on the inside, it's got a very rough, rigid. It's not as pliable or as
looks like it's bark.
Yeah,
is it bark?
It has a bit of bark on it, and so it's nice, but it makes it a little harder. Like this, the bag is bigger, but it accommodates the runes. I find it funny because there are less runes in here than there are Theta from the Ohm, but the runes were in general were carved bigger than the Ohm pieces. I know the reason why he did that was because he wanted to make sure that I can fill them with no problem.
They are really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
I've never seen anything like those. They are wonderful.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of people who will carve, will etch, will I have some Ohm sets that were also made with wood, but they were laser etched with lasers, then carved by hand like these are. But you'll find them. They generally cost anywhere from $25 to $80, depending on who you get them from, where they're from, and like the methods that they use.
That doesn't seem too bad for the workmanship that goes into it, the craftsmanship.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So the next question was, do you have a website? And down below, guys, in the description, I have a lot of different links for you.
Yeah.
That were on your channel.
So I don't have a traditional website or website in the traditional sense. Like I don't have one that has my own domain to it, mainly because that costs money, and a lot of the money I do have, I just have it focused on other things. It might be something I might look into later. The problem is a lot of places where you can build websites, they are not accessible. The one that as far as I'm aware of, the most accessible is WordPress, and even WordPress has its own problems now that they've completely revamped their system back at the towards the end of 2019. So I'm having to relearn, but I do have like a WordPress blog that's like my main, I guess you could say, site. I also do a lot on Tumblr, so I can be found on Tumblr as well. I do have a Facebook page. I'm in the process of adding content to it, building it up. There are so many different places on the web that I can be found, and I am constantly adding links to it on into the description section of my videos so people can find it, as well as on the about page on my channel.
Okay, I've just put your WordPress on there, your blog.
Yeah.
And I put your Instagram so that you guys can find him there as well.
Well, I will warn anyone wanting to check out my Instagram. As you probably can tell, I don't use that a lot. Yeah, I do have a accessible camera, but as far as like taking selfies or taking pictures, I don't really do a lot because it's a little hard for me. At some point here in the future, I plan on taking pictures on each individual rune and Theta from the Ohm, so that like when I do get around to start doing professional readings again, especially on my channel or through my blog, I can send them the pictures of what they get when I pull them or when I draw them or whatnot. And I'll probably put all the pictures of them on Instagram or on Facebook too.
Well, that's the next question really that I was going to ask you, along with the website and stuff. The reason why I always ask that is because many people that I interview do services for people.
Yeah.
So you do many different kinds of reading and divination and stuff like that for people, right? What is the best way for them to contact you for that?
So right now I'm in the process. A lot of my stuff is experimental, and by experimental, I'm like figuring out the best price, the best way, because I am kind of at a disadvantage at the moment because PayPal, which seems to be like the primary way by most people, like to pay for things. My account is kind of broken. Like I can send money, but I cannot receive money at the moment. So, as far as like getting paid, I use like Facebook. I use my bank account. I use Google Pay. I use Apple Pay. I think I got like half a dozen different payment apps or payment methods for people to get a hold of me. I also accept barter, which I know a lot of diviners and magicians or witches or whatever term you want to use don't necessarily do that, but I've had situations where like I recently did some spell work for a friend of mine who lives in a country where the only option they have is PayPal, and right now I can't accept payments from PayPal. So I'm like, look, I have Etsy, I have Amazon. I'm in the process of like organizing them so that people go, hey, these are the items that I need to get in the future. You want a service for me, we'll determine the amount, and you can just get me this thing or something on my list that is roughly that amount, and we'll just call it even. But I am also putting together like, because there's a lot of things to do. Like there's a lot of different reading types. Like I'll do like one card. Well, I guess one card for people who use tarot. For me, it would be like one character, one rune pulls, one song pulls, multiple pulls. I also do casting. So I'll like grab a handful of them and cast them. I will eventually offer very detailed types of trance working. I will eventually offer spell work. Particularly, one of the ones that I'm going to eventually do is basically where I will offer my services as a bard, as a fili, so as a poet, as a lyricist, and basically get a theme. Say someone comes to me and they want a healing or they want a blessing done for them. Well, I will write it for them. I will do the research. If they give me enough information, I can write. Because it's been years since I've done it, but I've actually written lyrics for songs for garage bands for people to record their own music, and they paid the rights. And it's not as lucrative as one would hope, but there's been times where it's helped pay the bills, or it helped pay for my dinner, especially if I'm traveling. So
Okay, so as soon as you have, well, you mentioned Etsy. Oh
yeah.
my gosh. And I have it on Do Not Disturb. See, I told you.
Yeah. Well, see, because I'm mostly blind and I'm on disabilities, I'm limited in what I can do. So unfortunately, I cannot have an Etsy shop. I cannot have Patreon because it would mess with my disabilities pension. But what I am allowed to do is I am allowed to take individual commissions through my, through blogs, through, YouTube channel, through podcasts, whenever I get that up and running. Supposedly there is a way that I can do Etsy shop or Patreon, but with my current living situation it's not doable. Like, so
Okay.
maybe it's I'm hoping maybe in the next year or so, when I'm hopefully in a much better position, I can add that to it. But at the moment, it's mostly what I will be doing is I know one of the videos that I'm planning on making and that I will post on my channel probably in the next week or two is hey, I want to start doing divination on my channel, and I will offer some free readings, so people can,
Okay.
so I can record them, I can upload them, to help people, but also to showcase myself a little bit so people can say, hey, this is what he does. This is cool. I might want to get that. And at the moment, it will just be with and runes, but eventually I will because I'm in the process of like working on my own stuff. There's some spiritual damage that I took from a couple years ago that I'm like healing from, the mending from, and so I'm having to relearn a few things that I used to be able to do with no problem. But I know eventually, with my two primary spirit companions, if you will, I want to start doing basically people send me in questions and I channel my companions, or I might channel deities or what have you, or channel various otherworldly beings, to get the answers for them on the video. Or I also tend to do a lot, like I'll do email, like stuff in emails, but I'll also do like live conference calls, in audio. I know but it kind of answered your earlier question. My websites are a little bit bare. It'll probably be another month or so before I get all the information in, like, on post/pages. But anyone who's interested, like listening to this video now, and you're interested, you have something in mind, you have like a concern or a question, or you have something that you'd like to explore, and you'd like to give me a chance, or try one of my in the moment what's the word, me figuring out the best way to share it with people, you can always contact me. I always put my email address and a public online number that is attached to my Skype. And
which is all down below.
Yep.
I got all that.
As far as the number goes, I can only be contacted by people in North America, so the United States and Canada. But my email and that number goes directly to my phone. The email address is also my personal email address, so I'm constantly checking it throughout the day, throughout the week. And,
okay.
Excuse me. And so yeah.
Okay, so moving on, because we're almost at an hour already.
Yeah.
So we had discussed briefly beforehand what your tarot birth cards are, which were the Lovers and the Devil.
And the Devil. It kind of makes sense, because it's like, it's funny. Like, I remember the first time that someone did that for me, did the whole birth card thing, and they're like, "You're the Lovers," and I'm like, "Well, I don't feel very romantic." And it took me years to realize what it means is that I'm very relationship oriented in general, and that is very much the truth. I'm very much a relationship oriented person. So for me, and even in business, this is my mindset. Okay, I'm interacting with someone. It could be a client, it could be acquaintance, but I tend to treat people, unless they do something that has shown me that they cannot be trusted, they cannot be dealt with honorably, I tend to treat people more or less like family, or I try to. So I am always trying to build better relationships with people, mutually beneficial relationships. And on the downside, because with birth cards, it shows your positive and negative sides as well. On the flip side, for me, I've noticed throughout my life, is one of the lessons that I'm constantly learning is letting go of a relationship when it fails, or when the other person is, they're taking advantage of me and the way that I am, like the way that I treat people. And
so like the Devil card,
yeah,
like codependency and stuff.
Well, I guess you could say that, but like the Devil card, for at least in my own mind, is I'm not a fan of confrontations. I try to avoid them if I can. But if I'm in a situation where I know, well, there's no way that this can be dodged or avoided. Okay, well, if we're going to have to get into the thick of it, let's get into the thick of it. Let's do this. And to quote one of my favorite childhood cartoons, let's get dangerous. But for me, it's more like the Devil. It's like, sometimes there's situations where I'm with people, and especially when I'm acting as a counselor, or a mediator or a mentor, and there's stuff going on in their life, and well, sometimes they need someone to act as an obstacle, or act as a devil's advocate, so to speak, or as I like to refer to it, as Loki's advocate. Especially if they're in a situation where they are willingly walking into illusions or delusions. They don't want to face the truth. Sometimes it's necessary, especially if, you know, a situation needs to be resolved. At least that's how I see it. Keep in mind, my knowledge, my understanding of tarot is very basic, because my past with tarot is kind of chaotic.
And your life path is the number 6.
Yep.
And do you know anything about that?
I've looked at it, but I kind of forgot what it was.
Okay.
I
don't know either.
So yeah. If I remember correctly, it's something, and I could be wrong about this, but I think it has something to do with like helping people. It very much has something to do with like sort of the relationships of like helping others. And throughout my life, that has always been my role, is the mediator, the counselor, the guy who, gives advice, acts as a sounding board, maybe your shoulder to cry on. I'm that guy that's like, you want to get something done? Well, I got your back. I'm like right next to him, like your right hand man. Like that's my best position when it comes to like helping other people, I guess you could say.
So you're like a giver. Yeah.
In a lot of ways. I know that. Are you familiar with the Briggs personality things?
Yes, Myers-Briggs.
So
yeah.
I'm primarily an ENFJ, which I think is the I forget if it's the giver or it's the caretaker or trying to think. But I constantly go back and forth between that one and one that's very close to it, and I forget which one it is. Now I know there's another personality thing. It's called the Agram. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly.
Okay, well, what I'm reading here for the ENFJ is Truity.
Okay, yeah, ENFJ.
Which means extroverted, intuitive, feeling, and judging. Yep. Those are your 4.
Yep, which is funny because in reality, I'm actually an extroverted introvert. So, which is weird, but there's enough of that extrovertedness that I come off as an extrovert. A lot of the times I can be very extroverted, but where the introvert kind of comes in is every once in a while I need downtime. I need time for myself to recharge. Or at least that's what I've found in my life.
Mine is really close to yours. I'm an INFJ, but /A for assertive introvert.
Yeah, my former wife was also an INFJ, and I've found that ENFJs and INFJs can, depending on the individual personalities, can work really well together. Because there's been a few times in the past I wouldn't necessarily say call them like we weren't practicing the same thing, but because they were practicing some other kind of tradition, like spiritual or magical tradition, but we would come together to do, certain spell work together, certain rituals together. And I don't know, I've always found it to be, though in those cases to be very, very successful.
Very cool. So what is your sun sign?
My sun sign is a Virgo. So I am a Virgo sun. I'm also a Virgo rising.
So a double earth. Okay.
Well,
and what's your moon?
And my moon is Pisces.
Okay. Yeah.
But the funny thing is that when I get into
oh my goodness.
When it comes to like spell work and whatnot, I don't work with the classical 4 element system. But when I work with other polytheists, other pagans, other witches who do work with the classical 4, like I've been in rituals where, okay, we need a person. We're going to do like a combined elemental thing. We need a person for each thing. I actually never get tagged for earth. I always get tagged for fire or air. So
those people that don't necessarily believe in astrology, let me just say something really quick here. The fact that you are 2 earths and a water sign, and you came up with an ENFJ personality type.
Mm-hmm.
I am also to Earth and a water sign, and I'm an INFJ. And personality types are done by what? It was created by what?
Well, that one.
Psychiatrist or psychologist?
Well,
Nothing to do with astrology, right?
yeah. Well, some of them were created by psychologists. I know there's a couple out there that were created by sociologists, um, which are fairly similar occupations or school. I can't think of the right term at the moment, but yeah, I mean, I haven't looked in a while, but I've had my birth chart done. And it is pretty interesting. Like, I got a lot of earth signs, I got a lot of fire signs, I got a couple water, and I got a couple air here and there.
So it sounds like you're actually pretty well rounded.
It depends. I like, as far as the earth, I'm mostly Virgo. So it's like, not counting the sun and rising. I think I have, because I know my Venus is Virgo, I know my Mars is Virgo. And I think there's one, maybe two others that are also Virgo. And then I know my Mercury is Libra. I know my not so much the planets, but the meteorites and whatnot. Because I know my Lilith is Leo. So like, I haven't memorized, because like, I know a little bit about astrology. I work with it a little bit, but it's not like super important to my practice. So
Yeah.
But there are occasions where, most of the time, where it does come in handy is when I'm working with other people who that's their main thing. Like, they have to have everything done by astrology. And so it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, at least I know my stuff. Like, at least I have this written down, so I can go, well, this is where I am with this and this and this. So you can put me to work wherever it is that you need me to do it for you.
Right, exactly. So, do you have a current tarot card that you love, that is your favorite?
So when it comes to favorites in general, I'm not someone who picks one favorite. I usually someone who picks anywhere from 3 to 9 favorites. And also
You just can't settle it down, huh?
Yeah. Also keep in mind that my interaction with tarot is very limited. I'm not a fan of the Rider-Waite system. So I actually find, and it's partly due to my past with tarot, but I find that the traditional 4 suits, swords, swords, wands, pentacles, and cups, really don't work with me. We do not get along. I'll put it this way. I won't go into the details unless anyone is curious to know, but I've had moments years ago in the past, let's say about 7-8 years ago, where I've had professional tarot readers, like, ones that are and go, I've never seen that happen before. Where their decks are just like, nope, I'm not going to give you a cohesive, concise, consistent answer. But the deck that I actually find that I get the most out of is the Wildwood Tarot. Now, I know it's inspired by Rider-Waite, but there's enough differences to it where it doesn't feel like it's bound to that. And so it has just enough differences to it in different ways, like both to its major and minor arcanas, where I can actually use it. As far as like because I know the major arcanas more than I do the minors, so I jive a lot with the seer card, primarily because I do a lot of like seership. Oh, that's like a huge, like, you know, I use the term diviner a lot, and that's a large part of that is because a lot of people, they get really uncomfortable when someone starts, you know, talking about soothsaying or seership or what have you. But I jive a lot with the seer card. I love the ancestor card. I think it's that deck's version of death, so I love that card. So the seer card, the ancestor card, um the World Tree card. I love that card. It's one of the few cards that I can actually see with no problem, and it is amazing. It is breathtaking. Well, the whole deck is just breathtaking. I mean, there's a few cards that the images are like, I honestly, I could just, you know, take or leave it. It doesn't really matter. Excuse me.
Gotcha. So
But
is that also your favorite deck and the one that you're working with is the
yeah,
Wildwood?
yeah, occasionally, like so far my few dabbles, I've been working with like tarot specifically, because keep in mind I don't have, like, I have physical copies, but I do not have a way of browing them yet. So I can't really work with physical copies, but I do have access to digital copies. There are accessible apps that basically have digital versions of the decks, and I have taken screenshots of each card. And so when the few times I've read for myself, or the one time that I read for another person, I have posted the pictures, and I've just gone from the information. But I'm primarily working with the Wildwood Tarot wise, but I'm, as far as Oracle, there's a couple Oracles, Oracle Vision and the Druid Animal and Plant Oracles. And then I recently got into Lenormand. Is that how you say it?
Oh,
Lenormand?
Lenormand or
Yeah.
Lenormand. Yeah.
And I like it a lot. I think part of the reason why I like it so much is because it's kind of straightforward and
Simpler.
to the
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And also, I don't read with reversals at all. And that's something that I picked up from Ohm, because the way Ohm is set up, the way it's designed, is that you physically cannot read with reversals. Though I have met people who read with Ohm who try to read with reversals, and usually the results are very entertaining to watch. But I've kind of taken that mindset to every other system because it was the first system I learned. So every once in a while, I'll get into conversations with tarot readers, especially when they hear the, you know, oh, Rob, you're learning how to, you're checking out the Wildwood Tarot there, I see. Can you do a reading for me? Well, I can try, you know, do a reading, which, because I do not have physical tarot cards, what I've been doing is I've actually created a dice system for myself. To roll. And what I do for it is, so number one spot on dice is Major Arcana. The second spot is the Pentacles or the equivalent. And it would go from one to five. It would go from a traditional Rider-Waite deck. It would go Major Arcana, Pentacles, Cups, Wands, and then Swords. And so first I would roll, say if I'm doing a question for myself, I'm decide to, you know, try this out. Say I'm doing a question for myself. I'll be like, okay, first of all, how many cards do I need to pull? Am I pulling one card, or am I going to pull more than one card? If I know I'm going to be pulling more than one card, I'll roll the dice, see how many times I need to roll, and then I'll roll again. And how many I get from that is the number of cards I'm pulling. Once I know the number of cards I'm pulling, I will then go, okay, for each card, from which suit am I pulling from? If I'm pulling from one of the minor arcanas, I will then roll 4 dice, and I will count the number up and go from there. And it's still work in progress, but it's something that I found I've gotten an 85% success rate with. So it's not bad.
That's pretty damn good.
It needs a little bit more refining to it, but yeah, but I've gotten into conversations. They're like, well, why don't you do a reading? And then I'll read things, and they're like, well, why aren't you reading reversals? And I'm like, because I don't need to.
You know what? That is not uncommon. As I look into the chat here, I am seeing several people, and in fact, most of them are saying they do not read reversals either. I don't either. So,
well,
I don't think it's that uncommon.
Yeah, well, so like I said, a lot of the stuff that take to other systems, I learned from learning how to read Ohm. And so for me, part of how I figure out if if a reading is bad or if an aspect of a reading, like I look at the positions, be it if I pull them for spread or if I pull them. So first and foremost, I generally, when I do a reading, be it casting or if I pull like a number, let's say I pull 4 or 5 things, and this would be for tarot too. Because I tend to be very consistent about how I do things across the board from one system to another. But I tend to read as if it's a story or a conversation. I look at the first thing that I get as the first piece and I build on from it from there. So depending on what is at the beginning and what is at the end, I then look what's in between it or what is around, especially if I'm doing a casting, because when you cast, they can end up in all sorts of kind of positions. So I look at that and I determine, okay, what is the beginning? Because usually for me, the beginning card or fid or rune will tell me is the source, is the essence of this reading. Is it going to be positive? Is it going to be neutral? Is it going to be negative? Excuse me. So if I'm doing a rude reading and the first rune that came up in a conversation, as I like to call them, like in a reading, is Haggadaz, which looks like an H, more or less, like a slanted H. I know that the most likely, more so than not, this reading is either going to be negative, or if it's not negative, there's some storms going on. That's going to be a bumpy road. We're going to get there. It's going to be okay in the end, but how we're going to get there, it's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah.
Or if I get for example, for Ohm, for example, if I get Bay, which is the first character, it translates into English as birch. It's one of the characters that we know that translates as a tree. I know that, well, it might be good, it might be bad, but there's more likely than not, there's going to be new beginnings, doors are going to be open, there's going to be creation, there's going to be transformation, there might be a cleansing or a blessing, especially if I know the situation beforehand. Like, especially if I'm reading, say, like, if I'm doing a reading like at the beginning of the year and Bay comes up in the very beginning of a reading, I know for the most part that, okay, we got new potential, we got the unknown coming up, things are coming into being, doors are opening, there's potential to be had, and that's awesome. So yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to kind of go sideways there, but yeah, that's just I don't remember what the original question was for this answer.
Something with tarot.
Yeah,
but
I think it was like favorite cards or something of that nature.
yeah.
Yeah.
So do you currently have a favorite book or artist or author?
So yeah, for several different things. So like from a spiritual perspective, from Irish spirituality, my favorite author is, and I'm probably gonna butcher their name wrong, Erin Rowan Laurie, I think is their name. I'm also a huge fan of Morgan Daimler. Like, their books, there are things I disagree. There's things that both authors write that I disagree about, but in general, if you're looking for some good traditional stuff on Irish spirituality, there's some good solid material there. Non-spiritual, I'm trying to think. I'm a huge fan of Tamron Pierce, who writes a lot of like high fantasy. I'm a huge Tolkien fan. I'm really big into like high fantasy, like medieval style fantasy. I'm really big into sci-fi. I'm into horror, so I'm like I like Stephen King, I like Dean Koontz. I'm a huge Anne Rice fan, or at least with some of her earlier works. some of her later stuff in her Vampire Chronicles series just got a little too out there for me. And oh yeah, I'm a huge J.K. Rowling fan, except for the last 2 books. I got to Half-Blood Prince, and I'm like, nope, this didn't happen. And it's funny because I'll get into conversations with people, and they'll talk about Deathly Hallows, and I'll be like, "What Deathly Hallows? That never happened." There's little things in there that I liked, but
I thought those books were the best, the last ones.
Well,
they were much darker, but they were the best.
They were more mature. I like the fact that they were more mature, but there were things that just drove me nuts. Same with Star Wars. Like, I'm a huge fan of Star Wars. I absolutely hated these last 3 movies that came out these past few years. And a large part of that is because I grew up reading what is now called the Legends material. And, so it depends really. So like, Tamron Pierce, I really like her Tortol series. I'm a huge Tolkien fan. So, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. My favorite Harry Potter books was probably books 3 to 5. Cause on one hand, so my favorite character from Harry Potter is Rubeus Hagrid. And part of the reason why he's my favorite character is because I've actually been mistaken for him several times. And it's weird because I don't have his hair color or anything like that. But so do you remember when the movies came out for the Deathly Hallows?
Yes.
So I got dragged to them by friends and by my former wife. And at the time I had a trench coat, and it was a leather trench coat, and it was a huge trench coat. It was a nice warm trench coat. I was living in Canada at the time, so it kept me nice and warm during the winters. And I have a bit of an accent. It's not as thick as a lot, some people in the South, but I have a bit. I can make it thick if I want to. But I go, I have long hair. I kind of have. I don't know if it can be seen, but I kind of have long hair. It's a bit it's wavy. It's a bit shaggy. I have a beard. So I get there, and there's everyone dressed up. We got like Dumbledore's and Harry Potter's, people dressed up as them as far as I can see. We got preteen and teenage girls dressed up as Hermione Granger. And there are you could tell that she was like a babysitter in her late teens, and she was there with just from what I can tell, like a 9, a 7, and a 5-year-old. And they were dressed as Harry, Hermione, and Ron. And the youngest one was the girl dressed up as Hermione, and she looks at me as I walk in, and she turns to the babysitter, who is dressed up as McGonagall, who goes, "There's Hagrid." There's Hagrid. And it's yeah, like I've had times where I wasn't doing anything for Halloween. I was just giving out candy, and people come to the door. It's like, "Oh my God, Mommy, it's Hagrid!" And I get mistaken for Rubeus Hagrid every once in a while. It's hilarious. TV shows. Well, you said artists too. So I like music wise. I like a little bit of everything, though I'm primarily a fan of rock and metal and a bit of country. So some of my favorite artists would be like Stained, Cold, Godsmack. I'm a huge Godsmack fan. Goo Goo Dolls. Spiritual music wise, I'm a huge Dave the Bard fan. A fan of Primordial, Male Morda. I'm trying to think of some other people. What is her name? I'm probably gonna mess it up. I know her last name's Tucker, but what is it? It is SJ. She's the one who did the pagan song years ago called "Go Away, God Boy." But I really like her music. There's this woman. I forget her name, but she's part of a band called Epica or Mystica. That might be it. But I really like her. I'm also a huge fan of Show of Hands. Norse spiritual music wise, I'm really big into bands like Tyr. I'm actually, my mind is running a blank as far as Viking metal goes. Hawk Heimdallson, excuse me. I really dig his music. I actually need to find more heathen True specific artists that I need to like check out more. But as far as like, your regular bands, your regular mainstream bands, I'm really into like Creed, Stain, Cold, Korn, Disturbed. Just it runs the gamut. I like Johnny Cash a lot. Billy Idol, it just really depends. I have a lot of bands.
Very eclectic.
Big into
Yeah. Yeah. So what about TV series?
Yeah, TV series. I'm a little behind on TV series, mainly because my family mostly watch Netflix, and I'm not the biggest fan of streaming. I still prefer DVDs, Blu-ray, that kind of thing. But like some of my favorite series include NCIS, CSI Miami, Person of Interest, How I Met Your Mother. Trying to think. I'm a huge Batman fan, so watch Gotham when that was a huge thing. Of course, I'm really big into anime. Watch a lot of anime. Huge anime nerd. So let's see. Trying to think of
what about like which movies or series?
I'm very picky when it comes to which movies, which shows. Charmed was okay. I might be opening up a can of worms here. I don't know. So I was a huge fan of Charmed. However, I hated the fact that one of the people who had a lot of control of the show was the woman who played Piper, because I felt like a lot of what she had influence really messed up the show, because I was a huge fan of Cole. Cole was my favorite character. In fact, my favorite episode of the entire series, it's where he kind of goes insane. It's after he became the Doc One for a while, or the source of all evil for a while, and he got out of it. And he's kind of insane immortal because he's trying to get Piper, or no, not Piper, but Phoebe back. She doesn't want him back. And there's this one episode where they need his help, and they find him, and he throws a fireball in a mirror, and it doesn't work. It's like, Cole, what happened to you? I came out of from being evil. I went insane. You know how it goes. Well, we need you to come help us. I'd rather cut my head off than help you. There's an idea. So I just really like Cole. I liked as far as the main female characters go, I really liked Prue when she was alive. Phoebe was probably my favorite. Or not Phoebe, but Charmed, half white lighter, I think.
Paige.
Paige, thank you. Though Phoebe was pretty cool too. I liked Chris, Piper, and Leo's son. Other witchy paranormal shows, I was really big into Buffy the Vampire Slayer / Angel.
Loved those two.
Loved both. Well, it's funny because there are times I wanted to strangle Angel. I was a huge fan of Spike. And there are some episodes I can basically quote verbatim. From Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like. I think part of the reason why I like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, because there was a couple characters I could relate to. Like for me, the one character I could probably relate to the most was Giles. Because I'm a bit of a research hound / fiend. So it's like I have friends who are, hey, Rob, it's like, do you have any information about this really hard to find piece of information about Norse or Irish lore? And it's like, yeah, let me go try to find it. And I'll come back like a couple weeks later. Here you go. Gives them a novel worth. What could be, what are possibly, what is like the most believed or most, accepted theories currently, so on and so forth. So like I kind of, I could kind of relate to Giles. Yeah, Giles the most as far as that goes. What other shows were there? Because I've seen so many shows over the years, it's kind of hard to remember them all.
Yeah.
Honestly, I watched more like witchy pig. Oh, there is a book series I really enjoyed. I'm not sure if a lot of people have heard of it. It's called Circle of Three.
Oh, Circle of Three.
And it's actually focused more on Wicca in witchcraft, and I'm not Wiccan at all. My practice is like I've never not influenced by Wicca at all, but I like the series mainly because when I came across it, I was a teenager, and just the characters are really good, and the situations that happens to them are just things that you see in real life. Like there's a book where there's discrimination going on and they have to get a lawyer. There's in one of the novels there's like a situation where they're figuring out about ethics and morality regarding magic, learning it the hard way. And while I personally don't subscribe to, the idea of what is it, the law 3 or the Wiccan Raid or what have you, I still found it to be very
Power 3 or something like that.
yeah. But I still
No, I
found
think it is the law of 3. I'm thinking of Charmed.
yeah. You got me talking about Charmed, so that's where my brain's at right now. Now leave a message. I'll leave a message after the tone. I'll get back to you eventually. My mind's wandering. I'll come back when it comes back. Yeah,
that's okay. We've got to move on anyway.
Yeah,
We've still got some other ones to do, and we're already at an hour and a half.
Yeah,
it goes fast. I mean, it really does. So, do you have a favorite season of the year?
Autumn and winter. Partly because I was born in the autumn, partly because I just like the cold better. I mean, I don't get me wrong, I don't mind sunshine, and but it just gets way too hot for me in the summer. As long as I got a warm enough coat. Also part of the reason why I like winter so much is part of my eye condition is I'm super light sensitive, which is the reason why I wear yellow tinted sunglasses when I'm on video. Excuse me, or on camera, because the lights in my room. If I didn't have these glasses, I would end up with a migraine. I would have a migraine. So wintertime is the only time that I can walk around and I can see the best without any sort of glasses needing any kind of help. So, but spiritually, it's, I don't know, it's the most active time for me, I guess you could say, like between, I guess, the end of September to the beginning of April, roughly around that time is just the best time of year for me. So I'd say mid-autumn to late winter, about mid-autumn to mid-winter is my favorite time of the year. So that sort of autumn, winter kind of, that's my favorite season, or seasons, I guess you can say.
Okay.
I dig snow, I dig leaves. I like the crispness in the air. It's easier for me to see that time of the year than any other time, because the sun's out and whatnot, but it's not as intense as it is in the summer or in the spring for that matter.
And do you feel a stronger connection to a certain element or one of the elements?
Well, like I said earlier in this conversation, I don't follow the classic 4 elemental system. I work more with the traditional Irish, and the traditional Irish concept of elements are and I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, the dual. It's kind of hard because we're still trying to figure out, because there isn't just like one version of that everyone agrees on. There's like a few different versions. Some of it has 7 elements, some of it has 9 elements, some of it has 11 elements. But as far as elements go, I tend to work with wind and fire the best. They're just the easiest that come to me. I'm a devotee of Bridget, so I do a lot of flame tending. Another thing of divinations, really the only kind of scrying I do is, I also do a little bit of wind, but that's more listening than actually like seeing as far as like divination goes. But I do a bit of fire scrying, using candles. So I work a lot with fire. Fire is a huge thing in my practice. I've had some interesting experiences with fire. There's been situations where I've come out of it and it's like, I should be a lot more burnt than I am. I should be like a crispy critter at this point. No, okay. Hey, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. Let's go. But I also work a lot with the air, with wind. I just have like, a natural connection with the wind in some ways more so than others, which is weird because I know whenever I get into a conversation with people and astrology gets brought up, they're like, well, you're primarily an earth sign. This should not be happening. But I know a large part of it's due to past life because I worked, I figured out some of my past lives. I worked with them. And I know one of my past lives just did a lot with, the wind. So there's a large part of my practice that is wound up with the wind. Other than that, other than wind and fire, kind of earth, but not the way that a lot of people think. Because you know how in a lot of like pagan, polytheistic, witchy practice, everyone seems to be really into crystals.
That's the next question.
Well, crystals and I 90% of the time do not work together for some weird reason. I don't know if it's because I just cannot work with polished or tumbled crystals, or if it's just I don't have the energy. I just don't like my energy is just not compatible with most crystals. There's a few that I can get kind of a reaction from, but overall, stones and I like that aspect of earth and I just don't get along. I actually work a lot better with plants. So I work a lot with sacred trees, like with birch, oak, rowan, willow, blackthorn, so on and so forth. So kind of earth, but earth is a little problematic for me. It's a little complicated. And even after all these years, I'm still trying to figure out, well, why is this the way this is?
So do you have a favorite crystal, or do you just pretty much don't work with them?
I have a couple favorite crystals. So my favorite crystal off the top is obsidian, because obsidian isn't just earth. It's very much fire. It's volcanic glass. So I actually find that I tend to work the best with most igneous stones. So as far as crystals, that means like obsidian, Apache tears, I tend to get a lot of the most reaction out of. My other favorite crystal, and the one that I work with a lot, the one that is easiest for me to work with is probably smoky quartz. I love smoky quartz. However, if I'm working with smoky quartz and I'm working with someone else, I can't let anyone work with my smoky quartz because, and I've actually seen this happen. I've actually had people like show this and take pictures of it. I need to see if I can get some of them. But apparently when I work with a thing of smoky quartz, let's see if I can find it real quick, because I do have a crystal spear. Yeah, right here. I hope y'all can see this. This is my smoky quartz.
Bring it over just a little bit.
Well, this way? Well, this way, or should I bring it over the other way?
No, you're good.
Okay. So yeah, this is my smoky quartz. And there's actually a very interesting story behind how I got this. I did a video about it. It is one of the ones I'm definitely going to be re-recording, re-uploading, because a lot of people seem to really like that video. But when it comes to smoky quartz and I have an interesting relationship, because I know one of its like common correspondence, which I have a bit of a problematic history with common correspondences, but that's a different story. I know that smoky quartz seems to be a conductor of energy, like it helps grounds and purifies you. It tends to absorb a lot of my energy. If I play around with this for more than 5 minutes, it will get hot. I've actually had people try to, take this particular crystal in their hand after I've worked with it, and it's actually burnt them. It's actually left burns on their hands.
Wow.
So, it's weird.
Yeah. Well, that's something. So, do you have any daily rituals that you do?
Well, I'm in the process of like becoming more ritualistic. I used to be, but if I don't get to do anything else, I at least, I'll pray. Like I have morning prayer. Like I pray, I'll sing to myself, sing to different deities, get in contact with different deities. And I'll also do little divinations throughout the day because I like to be in contact with my deities, with my companions. There's two in particular that I work with on a daily basis. Excuse me. There's Ruadri, who is my fairy cat. Pronounce his name, and he is a wolf being. He's actually a giant, but he's more animalistic than anything else. So I work with them, and Ruadri, he's really good about defense, offense. So he helps me out with like warding or with cursing. Elaf is sort of my traveling partner. If I'm like doing trance work either for myself or someone else, he comes with me. He helps. But yeah, I tend to like, if nothing else, if something's going on and I'm not able to do much, like do any spell work or do any, like I do a lot of flame tending. I don't necessarily do it every day, but I do it almost every day, where I'll just light a candle and I'll do some healing work for myself or for other people or friends or families. One thing I've been getting in the process of doing on my blogs, and I'll probably offer it on through YouTube, through my channel, is weekly flame tending sessions where people can, send in requests for me to, to do some flame tending for them for breed, with breed. So, so there's that, but mostly it's, prayer. It's little prayers here and there, little moments where, I just pray to my deities, talk to my deities, what have you.
So unfortunately, because we're getting, it's going much longer than what it really should be going, and we still have tons of questions to go. I'm just going to ask a couple more questions.
Yeah, sure.
First one would be, if you could have a deep conversation with anyone during any time in history, who would it be and why?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I'm really big into history. So just random people in history, like Churchill, for example, because like I studied a lot of World War II when I was younger. My family is really big into, to studying World War II. So just, him to just get a different perspective. Different authors. Some of my favorite poets, like Dylan Thomas or Robert Frost or Edgar Allan Poe, just because I really love their works, and I would love to just, pick their brains and, to get insights and get tips and tricks, as a poet, as an author, someone trying to, to write more, to compose more.
That's awesome. And the last one was, if you could go to any event in history, what would it be and why?
I'm sorry, what is it?
Any event in history?
I'm not sure. I don't know. Maybe the Renaissance. Just to see how, just to see all the art. Like especially if I had a lot more sight than I do now, I would like to go to the Renaissance to check out all the art, all the different things that were being made in those times. Or I would, I don't know, like I said, I'm a huge fan of high fantasy, medieval fantasy. So even though it was a very chaotic time, there's a part of me that would have liked to go back during medieval times, especially medieval Ireland or medieval Scotland or medieval Norse, Norway or Scandinavia, just to see how things were done back then during that time.
Very cool. Do you watch the Vikings?
I do watch Vikings. I have some issues with how it's kind of turned out towards the later seasons. There's some decisions that they've made with the show that I'm very much not happy about, but it's still a good show. I still like it.
It seems like they're stretching now, doesn't it? Just for entertainment purposes.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, well, I know they're going to be making a sequel series. Hope that turns out to be good.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I forget what it's called, but I know that the season that they're doing right now is going to be the last season, and then they're going to be doing a sequel series. And
Well, that's cool.
yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I normally open it up now for anybody that has any questions for you. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Okay, so guys, if you have any questions for Robert, now would be the time, please.
Let's see if I can get the chat to work so I can like scroll down and see things myself.
And yeah, if not, I can always ask it for them too.
Yeah. Yeah, my keyboard's being weird.
What I think you are right. I watched several reviews and each time it called to me. What were you talking about, honey, Darlene? Have you read any of the Terry Brown or Terry Brooks books?
Never heard of them, but depending on what they are, I'll definitely check them out. I'm always looking for, more books to read, be it nonfiction. I know right now, as far as spiritual stuff goes, I'm reading Weave the Liminal, as well as Jailbreaking the Goddess, which one of my friends is like, hey, I know this isn't really your thing, but I just want someone to talk to about it. So can you just read it and, get back to me? So I've been reading that a bit, and it's been interesting so far. Let's see, fiction wise, I do a lot with Dungeons and Dragons. So fantasy wise, I've been reading a lot of the Forgotten Realms novels at the moment. But yeah, what you said, Terry Brown, definitely gonna have to check that out.
Oh, Darlene said, sorry, I was talking about the Kim Kranz archetype deck. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. My like I said, my interaction, my knowledge, my experience with tarot is very limited, and there's only certain decks I'm really interested in. So I mean, I've heard, I have a friend who works a lot with, they're really big into like working with angels. So I know there are a couple of like angel decks that are pretty good. Like I've had readings done by them, and they seem to be pretty decent.
Yeah. So Johnny wants you to know that his deities are Egyptian goddess Bast, French wizard ancestors, Cherokee Indian ancestors, and Cherokee Indian. Great spirit.
Oh, nice. So I don't worship the Neteru or the Egyptian gods myself, but I've worked with them in the past. Like I've had clients, want me to help them out with them, and I've also my former wife, she was Kemetic, so like I've interacted with Bast. I really adore Bast. Bast is an awesome goddess. I never had any problems with her. She is definitely one of the cool ones. If you're lucky to get to work with her, she's pretty cool.
And Debbie says that he was the one who wrote Sword of Shannara series, druids, elves, humans, etc. Did you ever see that series?
I've heard of it. It's on my to-do list.
It's really good.
Honestly, I have a hard time reading fiction books about druids, because see, there's a lot of I guess assumptions that's made about what we know, and so it's like I'm not a pure reconstructionist or pure traditionalist, but it's like what I've known, what I've studied over the years. It's hard for me to turn that part of my brain off. I guess you could say it's the Virgo side. I have a Pisces heart, but I have a Virgo brain, I guess you can say. So there's like this is interesting, but if there's something in there that I know that as far as we're aware of is factually wrong, I cannot help but pick at it.
Gotcha. And Johnny, I'm sorry, honey. Your name confuses me sometimes. Johnny is a female, not a male.
Ah, well, that's okay. I mean, I myself am bigender, so I mean,
Oh.
Yeah.
So does anybody else have any other questions? I'm sorry.
No, that's perfectly fine.
Do you play any instruments?
Like I haven't mastered any instruments. I know a little bit of the drums, I know a little bit of the harp, I know a little bit of the cello, I know a little bit of penny whistle, and then a little bit of the mandolin. And there's a number of instruments that I want to learn how to play more. Like I have to say, out of all those instruments, I know the drums the best. But I recently got a harp as a Yule gift. So I'm definitely wanting to, like a hand harp. So I'm definitely wanting to learn how to play it more.
Very cool. So if nobody else has any other questions, we're going to cut this short now. And it's definitely not short, but it was very, very cool, very interesting. It's not something that you hear a lot about, all of the different runes and the ogham and all the different things that you do. Really, really cool. So I want to say thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me on here. It was really great talking with you and, just answering the questions, sharing, what I can.
We'll be looking forward to all of the new stuff that you have coming out on your channel.
Definitely.
And thank you for sharing.
Thank
you guys. Sending you guys all love and light.
Yep. Blessings. Take care.